Welcome back to Big Mama's house, y'all. This is Mama welcoming you here to hang out with me a little bit today. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. This is part of my bio. This is from my early life up until I became of age at 18. I'm going to issue a trigger warning now for child abuse of all kinds, sexual assault, substance abuse, things like that. These recollections are my own. This is how I remember it. These are my feelings, my thoughts, and all names have been changed. These are not anyone's real names, so bear with me. My early life. My parents met in the 70s, the 1970s. Mother was screwed up by her own childhood abuse. And she got pregnant when she was 14 and had my brother Brad when she was 15 by a married older man. So his dad wasn't around. My father was a drinker, so was my mother, and a substance user, and he got in trouble from what I understand. So he married mother and enlisted in the army to avoid incarceration. That's what I understand anyway. Anyway. They moved to a base in another state and had a volatile, violent relationship. Things like he tried to run her over with a car, supposedly. She supposedly set the bed on fire with him in it. Yeah, it was pretty bad from what I understand. She got desperate to keep him for whatever reason because she was madly in love with him. So she got pregnant with me to try to keep him. It didn't work because, again, lots of crazy. But she blamed me. I wasn't even a year old when they split up and got divorced. She moved back to the Midwest with her two kids, my older brother and me, had no job or anything. Both sets of grandparents, my dad's parents and her parents, helped her to get a car with babysitting, a place to live, and that really hurt my dad that his parents chose his ex-wife over him, but it was nothing uh, about my mother that what they were helping. My gram told me she wasn't going to let me sleep in a car, be homeless or hungry, and we came as a trio. So she really didn't feel like she had a choice but to, she wasn't going to let me or my brother, okay? Because she loved my brother too, even though he wasn't her biological grandchild. So eventually we moved into a low income apartment and life was okay for a little while, kind of settled down, things like that. From what I remember, again, I was very small, 2, 3 years old. My dad was still doing what he was doing before, even after he got out of the army, and he would continue to do it for another 11 years, which was drugs and alcohol. I don't remember seeing him much except for holidays at my grandma and grandpa's house, his parents. Within a few years, they had both moved on with other people, but I firmly believe my mother never got over my dad. Um, Dad got with a long term girlfriend, the mother of my half siblings, Audrey and Jordan. Again, none of these are the real names. Mother got married to my stepdad, Tommy, the father of my half siblings on that side, Sally and AJ. So when I was 4, they got married, my mother and stepdad. When I was 6, Sally and Audrey born to each parent, and the boys were born when I was 8. I always thought it was weird that they had babies at the same time, but whatever. Both sets of parents were low income. I lived with mother, but my dad knew well enough not to come around when he was messed up. So instead of staying with him on his visitation weekends, or staying with him with his girlfriend and her son, who was also my age, I would go to my grandma and grandpa's for a visit. At first, mother would let Brad come along, my older brother, but she eventually separated us and only let me go. She saw how we were treated with love, kindness, and honestly, we were spoiled. that wasn't acceptable to her, I guess. She refused from she she couldn't refuse to let me see them, but they had no claim to my older brother Brad. I don't know if it was the pressure of two young kids, the new husband, not having much money, and her own mental stuff, but the abuse started almost right away. When I was very young, about 4 years old, I had something going on with my digestive system. I would get very constipated and it would hurt like crazy to go to the bathroom. Eventually, I didn't want to go because I knew it would hurt. You can only hold it so long until your body will get rid of it against your will, which resulted in me not getting to the bathroom on time. This went on for a couple of years, and it was their reasoning for what they did. Mother is an extremely negative person. Sorry, y'all, when this gets me a little anxious, so I'm gonna have a cigarette. Very negative person and always assumes the worst about pretty much everyone. When I was about 5 in kindergarten, Mother had enough of my quote unquote messes and decided I was doing it for attention. So she was going to give me her attention. She kept me home from school for about a week, I think it was, and didn't let me wear underwear and stood me in the corner all day unless it was to go to the bathroom. Every hour, she would spank me. Food was given when I was good or not when I wasn't. They said bad dogs get put outside, so that's what they did. They made me stay outside in the dark by myself until it was decided that I'd learned something. During these years, Mother was big on you go outside until lunch, and then until dinner, and then until dark. For a shy, terrified 5-year-old with a brother who was 4.5 years older than me and didn't want a little sister tagging along, this was a conundrum. But right next door was a nice old couple. The wife was bedridden, I think. I don't remember seeing her much. But the old man became my friend. He never shouted, hit me, or belittled me. He reminded me of my grandpa, so I trusted him. But as summer flew by, he slowly started to touch me. I didn't know to be afraid. We started spending time in his shed, just the two of us. The touching got more frequent, and he told me that's how boys and girls love each other, and weren't we friends? So I touched him back, and so on. I don't remember how I came to tell Mother, but she got the police involved, and nothing became of it because I was considered to be too young to testify. When I was 6, Sally was born to Mother, and I fell instantly in love with her. I had never seen a new baby, and I was mesmerized by her tiny fingers and toes, her tiny face, everything. I believe and have for many years that she had fetal alcohol syndrome, where, like I said, typical Midwestern white people with, the round eyes and all that, but she has the almond shaped eyes. She had a cleft palate when she was born, partial deafness, and all of these required multiple surgeries throughout her childhood. Um, Audrey was also born around the same time to my dad, but I only visited my dad's house a couple times a year, so I never really got to know them, even though I always loved them. But to get away from it, my mother and stepdad decided to move. They bought a great house for them and their 3 kids. But like I said, they didn't have a lot of money, so they also blamed that on me. Like I chose to be molested, right? Yeah, that's smart. After the move, things changed for the worse. She started drinking more when stepdad was at work or sleeping, which became about 80% of the time because he worked a lot. He drank too, but he never hit me. I think I was in the first grade when I went to school with a black guy for Mother hitting my brother and I with a bungee cord, the with the hook end. Um, when the teacher asked what happened, I told her the truth, but later recanted for fear of getting in trouble at home. Trouble meant screaming if we were lucky. If it weren't, it was a belt or paddle that stepfather drilled holes in to make it hurt more. After the move to the new house, Mother's drinking increased during these years. Even scarier than the belt was Mother driving drunk with all of us in the car, which happened quite frequently. It's a miracle we all didn't die, honestly. My only reprieve was visits to my grandparents' house every other weekend. One time I was there and was getting ready for a bath. My gran walked in on me getting in the tub and saw my entire backside from neck to foot was covered in bruises. She asked me what happened, so I told her the truth. She called a friend to bring her Polaroid camera to document the damage. Then she called my dad. I didn't really know him and was very shy around him, not really wanting to talk with him about it. But he promised me she wouldn't hurt me again. Well, at least not physically, that was true. Unbeknownst to me, the police and child welfare got involved and they went to court. My father was given custody, but I lived with my grandparents because, again, he was living with the long term girlfriend and her son and their two kids. And um, I just wasn't around them much. So I just lived with my grandparents, which was amazing. Don't get me wrong. I went to a child therapist to help me deal with all the abuse. When I was 8, each parent had a last child, both boys. Jordan to my dad and his long-term girlfriend, and AJ to mother and stepfather. I wasn't around either family much at that time. When I was ready, I started visitation with mother's family. It was a terrible feeling to feel like a visitor in both of your parents' homes, not fully a part of either one. This is the part that's always been the hardest for me because I have always loved my siblings, all of them, and want to be close to them, but circumstances made that impossible and it breaks my heart. I was a very shy kid and had no friends. Switching schools after moving in with my grandparents didn't help. When I was 12, my dad got sober. For whatever reason, his long term girlfriend didn't want him around after he got sober, or vice versa, whichever, and they split up. Audrey was 6 and Jordan was 4. I was excited because I thought I was finally going to have a dad, so I had high expectations. But he was busy working, going to meetings, finding a place to live, furnishing it. And later that year, he met my stepmother at AA/NA. He always got the younger kids for visitation, but not me. I guess he thought I was too old to bother with or something. But that really, really fucked with my head. Because again, it felt like I was being shoved aside, like I wasn't really their children or their child, and that I just didn't matter. When I was 14, I made a friend at school, Mindy. She was also being abused by her mom and stepdad, and I knew the signs. We became best friends and stayed friends for 20 years. I would really need her as Grandpa passed away suddenly. My whole world was rocked. I mean, he was my foundation. It made Grandma me even closer. But to get my mind off of it, my friend Mindy, she introduced me to her new friend, an older boy named Ryan. We also became best friends, and we stayed close for several years. When I was 15, I planned a surprise birthday party at my home for Ryan's 18th birthday. I invited our friends and my stepbrother, who was my new stepmother's son, who was a couple years older than me. Dad and stepmother came to visit Graham since they all lived together about 40 minutes away. Pardon me. Sorry, guys. Allergies are kicking my butt today. Long story short, stepmother intentionally told Ryan that I told her he's gay. This was the mid 1990s, you guys. I was a teenager and I didn't really know anything about gay people except for him. And his family is Catholic. So he was deep in the closet, except for with me and Mindy. Of course, I thought confiding in my friendly stepmother would be okay, but I didn't realize she was manic depressive and had huge mood and personality changes. I found out the hard way. So Ryan was furious and scared, so I got furious at stepmother and went off on her. I didn't curse back then, and I was normally too shy and scared to be that confrontational, but these people were my lifelines. Words were exchanged, and she said, "Fuck you," to me. And I said, probably the first time I ever said it out loud at that age was, I said, "No, fuck you." And I vowed never to speak to her again. But not too long after, my dad came to our house and asked me to let it go. For him. Me, the child, the wronged party. It broke my heart that he chose her side over mine. But I did it for him. But I never trusted stepmother again. When I was 16, at the tail end of my sophomore year, everything culminated in severe depression. Even though I didn't know what that was at the time, depression wasn't something that was really discussed, talked about, taught in schools, things like that. Like, I had no clue what was going on with me. I tried to kill myself with Graham's blood pressure medicine, a bottle of Tylenol, and some other stuff I found in the medicine cabinet. And then I went to bed. When I woke up in the next morning, I was truly shocked. But then Graham couldn't find her blood pressure medicine. The whole story came out, and I was taken to an adolescent psych unit for 5 days. It didn't do much, honestly, but I got put on antidepressants, which helped some. A few months later, during the summer break, I was cruising. If you guys are old enough to remember what cruising is or not, it's where on Friday and Saturday nights you'd get in your car and you would drive up and down Main Street, waving to your friends, stopping to chat, things like that. It was the 90s, y'all. We didn't have much. There was no internet. Okay. Um, we were cruising and we met my future ex-husband. We started dating, but I said I was 18 when I was 16, and he said he was 20 when he was really 23. Eventually, the truth about our ages came out, but he was still keeping secrets. I started my junior year of high school. In early March of that school year, I found out when I was 17, I found out I was pregnant. My family was not thrilled. I was the smart one, the good one, the kid no one worried about. I was college bound and everyone knew it. Then the next bombs dropped. When asked if he would marry me, future ex-husband announced yes, but after he got a divorce. Yes, he had been married, which I knew, but I wasn't aware he still was, and they had children together that he didn't see this entire time. My Graham lent us the money to get the divorce started, and they went to court before I started my senior year. After a DNA test, it was determined that his youngest daughter, the youngest one, because there were three, the first one was she had before they met, so he knew that oldest daughter was not his. I guess he had done drugs during that period and couldn't remember if the second daughter, if she had been pregnant with her when they met or if it happened after. He just couldn't remember, and she refused to take her for a DNA test. Um, but on the third daughter, the youngest, the one which he thought for sure was his, because she really did look just like him, uh, the DNA test determined that that daughter was not biologically his, which was a shock. Many years later, after we divorced, the second daughter was found to be his after a DNA test. In the midst of all this, I found out that he had been cheating on me. Um, I was young, in love, and pregnant, so I forgave him. I would do things differently now, but I wouldn't have my lizard if I wouldn't have stayed with him, so, it worked out. I had to do homeschooling for the first semester of my senior year for medical reasons, including preterm labor. After Mallow was born, things were good for a while. I went back to school to finish my senior year, the second semester, and even though it broke my heart to be separated from her during the day, I graduated with honors when she was 8 months old. Graham gave me the money my grandpa had saved for me, about $5,000, to buy a little mobile home for us. I moved into it with future ex husband after graduation, and we got married a month later. Um, this is where I'll stop for now. If y'all are interested, I'll do another one that covers our marriage and divorce. I know this isn't exactly like fun, happy entertainment, but I'm not ashamed of my past anymore, and I don't want any of you to be either. This isn't to elicit sympathy or anything, just to let you know that others have been where you are and have survived and even thrived. So I hope you come on back down to Big Mama's house where everyone is welcome. And I hope that this helps you and that nobody was triggered by it. If you have thoughts, concerns, questions, comments, please let us know because we do this for you guys. I mean, part of it is, yes, it's fun, it's entertaining, but it's also a lot of work. And we want to provide you guys, with what we think you'd want to know, what you'd want to hear, what you'd want to, hear us talk about. So if you have any suggestions for us, please, please feel free to reach out, send us a message, whatever, just to, let us know that you're out there listening. And, if you know someone else out there who, might need a friend, who needs, might need to hear some of these words sometimes, give us a share or, send them to us. We're trying to be there for as many people as we can. So, all right, you guys. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day. It is beautiful here today in the Midwest, and I'm going to try to get outside and get some sun because I am pale, y'all. Um, okay, y'all come back now. Have a great day. Bye, y'all.